Hey, this is Horner. We're going to look at different types of cells and organelles. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just review the prokaryotes versus the eukaryotes. And the word prokaryote, remember, means before. So here, pro means before, karyo means nucleus. So these are organisms that don't have a nucleus. And then we've got eukaryotes, where eu means true, karyo means nucleus. So there's a true nucleus. So these organisms do have a nucleus. The archaea are kind of cool because these are bacteria-like prokaryotes that live in different really extreme areas. So for example, maybe deep down in the ocean next to a methane vent or a sulfur vent, one of the two, you'll see that these organisms will live. And this is kind of what they look like. They look a lot like bacteria. This is kind of a sulfur spring, and so they live in a sulfur spring too. So in environments where most other organisms wouldn't live. We know that bacteria are also prokaryotes. They live in your gut, they live in your mouth, they live on your skin. And if you get certain types of really bad bacteria, for example, if you have E. coli in food, that can make you really sick. The eukaryotes include fungi, include protists, which we'll look at, plants, and animals. So just a little bit of a review of prokaryotes versus eukaryotes. If we take another look at these, we'll see that both have a cell membrane. We know they both have DNA, they both have ribosomes, but only the eukaryotes are the ones that have membrane-bound organelles. So a big difference between the two. If you think about it, eu rhymes with do, and pro rhymes with no. So the ones on the left here, the prokaryotes, they do not, so no membrane-bound organelles. And then the EU do have membrane-bound organelles. And so that's the really important part for that slide. Next one, the cell membrane. So now I'm going to have you start filling in your sheet with all of your notes. In the very first column, it gives you the cell part or the organelle name, which is the cell membrane. And then it wants to know, is it found in prokaryotic or eukaryotic cells, and is it found in plant or animal cells? So this will kind of tell you what to put in. So all prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells do have a cell membrane. This is a structure. It is located on the outside of the cell, and it's made up of something called a phospholipid bilayer. It has phosphates and lipids, and it's called a bilayer because there are two layers. So you'll see one layer right here, and then you'll see another layer right here. And its function is to determine what goes into and out of the cell. It also helps protect and support the cell. You need to, in that fourth column, draw something that would help you remember the organelle's job. So this is a bouncer, and a bouncer is a person who lets celebrities or sometimes everyday people also into a restaurant, and so they get to pick who goes in and who goes out. So that's why the bouncer is a really good picture for the cell membrane. So that one's already drawn for you. Just a little bit more about the cell membrane here. If it was missing from the cell, materials could go in and out unfiltered, and the cell would really lack a lot of structure. So that's why that cell membrane is so very important. This is a little bit more about the phospholipid bilayer. This is an animation that shows you how we have some molecules that are able to go through this phospholipid bilayer, and then we've got some larger ones that are just bouncing off the outside and bouncing off the inside of the phospholipid bilayer. So we say because some things can go through and other things can't, that it is semi-permeable. So semi-permeable means it allows some materials to pass through freely while other materials just can't get through at all. Let's take a look at our next one. This is cytoplasm. This came from the Amoeba sisters, and this says, I am the dancing queen. So why is it that this cell is dancing? It's because it has this thick jelly-like substance on the inside that we call cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is found in all prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. It's a jelly-like material found inside of the cell membrane. So no matter whether it is a prokaryotic cell like this bacteria, or it's a eukaryotic cell like the plant cell or the animal cell, they all have cytoplasm. The function of the cytoplasm is to support and protect the cell's organelles. And it also contains some of the nutrients for the cell. So one thing you might want to draw for your picture in that fourth column is a jelly donut, because the jelly on the inside of the jelly donut, if it had, oh, I don't know, for some reason they put nuts in it or other things, that would protect those things on the inside. And it's kind of a jelly-like material. So that jelly donut would probably be a good thing to write down. The cytoplasm, if we were missing cytoplasm from the cell, the organelles would not have any protection and we wouldn't have any nutrients that could diffuse through the cell. So that would be the problem without having any cytoplasm. The nucleus is one of the most important parts of the cell. It is the genetic information bearer of the cell, and it has a lot of responsibilities. So without the nucleus, you just have the genetic material on the inside. So when we look at the cells, we notice that only eukaryotic cells have a nucleus. Prokaryotes have free-floating DNA that's not bound by a nucleus, so they can still get information to different parts of the cell. The structure, it does have a nuclear membrane that allows materials in and out, and it contains genetic material that we call DNA in the form of chromosomes, which contain instructions for different traits. It also contains a dark central ball that we call the nucleolus, and that nucleolus will be right here in the middle. And that nucleolus will make ribosomes. The genetic material is the coiled up material on the outside here that you see. And then the things with holes in it is the nuclear membrane. The function of the nucleus is to direct the cell activities. So really that's the nucleus, nucleolus, and DNA together will help direct cell activities. If you didn't have it, the cell just would not function at all. There'd be no direction for the organelles, and that would not be good. Ribosomes are our next organelle, and these are the protein synthesizers of the cell. So these make proteins, they take messenger RNA, make amino acids, which make proteins. So these are found in all prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. The structure, these are not bound by a membrane. So you'll see these little dots in each one of the three cells. Those are ribosomes. And each cell contains thousands of these little black dots. They're found on the endoplasmic reticulum sometimes. So this is endoplasmic reticulum that we call rough endoplasmic reticulum. We'll see also that we have smooth ER or endoplasmic reticulum, but when you have ribosomes on them, we call it rough endoplasmic reticulum, and they also freely float throughout the cell. So here there's no ER at all, and they just float through. Here this one has both free and rough ER. This one has both free ribosomes and then ribosomes attached to the ER. Their function is to make proteins, so they're really important. If you need to think about a picture that you might want, this is probably not the best picture in the world. It's just a grill, but it's got the hamburger and the hot dogs on it, which are proteins. So we're saying that they quote unquote make proteins. Probably not the best thing in the world, but still something for you to draw if you can't think of anything else. If we didn't have this organelle, if it was missing, cells would not have building blocks to create organelles and do all the other things that the cell needs to do. The next really important organelle of the cell is called the mitochondria. That's plural. A mitochondrion is a single one. And this is the mighty energy producer of the cell. So when the cell needs energy, it gets it from the mitochondria. The mitochondria are found in all eukaryotic cells. They are rod-shaped and they are found throughout the cell. They are the powerhouse of the cell, so they produce energy from sugar through chemical reactions, and we call that cellular respiration. So kind of like when you breathe in and out, and that pulls oxygen in and helps power all your different vital functions of your body, including your heart. This powerhouse gets and makes energy from sugar and through the chemical reaction that we call cellular respiration. If you can't think of anything to draw, one thing that you might want to draw is battery, and because batteries typically we say have power. The mitochondria, if that was missing, cells would not be able to create energy to perform functions and the cell would die off. So these are all really super important. The chloroplast is the next one. This is what we call a glucose synthesizer, and a synthesizer is just something that makes something else. So these make glucose from the sun and from some other chemicals that are on the inside. And so the chloroplast is found only in eukaryotic plant cells. This is found in plant cells, and it does contain something called green chlorophyll. The function is to use photosynthesis, which uses sunlight to make sugar for the plant. If you're not sure what to draw, you could draw a leaf and then maybe put a sugar shaker there next to it, or a sugar jar or something like that. If you didn't have chloroplasts, not you, but I guess if a plant didn't, plants wouldn't be able to make food, and that would be really bad, of course. Golgi apparatus is the next part. It's also sometimes called the Golgi body. This is the post office of the cell. It packages proteins and does some other things. So let's look and see exactly what it does. Golgi bodies, they're also known as Golgi apparatus, and sometimes it's even called the Golgi complex. All three of those terms mean the same structure. They're found in all eukaryotic cells. They're the yellow structures that you see in both pictures. They're made out of 5 to 8 sacs, so you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sacs on this one, and they process, package proteins and lipids, so they help move materials within the cell and out of the cell in little sacs that we call vesicles. So we can pack it up and move it out, kind of like a moving truck. If your body or your cells didn't have Golgi bodies, then the cell would not be able to package or transport materials efficiently. They might kind of build up in your cells and make your cells swell and then explode. That would not be good. The next one is called Endoplasmic Reticulum. This one specifically is rough endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes on them, and those ribosomes make amino acids, which make proteins. And the rough endoplasmic reticulum is the protein assembly line of the cell. Its structure, it is found in all eukaryotic cells, so you'll see the purple structures here are the different types of endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth, we said, do not have ribosomes, but rough endoplasmic reticulum does have ribosomes, and they're just a series of tubes and sacs that are in the inside, but they're really important for transporting proteins. They can transport proteins, and they break down drugs within the cell. If you need something to draw, you could draw maybe a subway train or a train of some sort, and that would be a good representation of endoplasmic reticulum. Then you might have a bunch of people on the inside creating something. And that would be the ribosomes if you needed that. And some trains are empty, so that would be like the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. If this was missing, some of the ribosomes would not have a home, and the proteins would not have a system in which they can transport items. The next organelle we'll talk about is called the lysosome. These are enzyme-packed wrecking balls of the cell, and they really take over bad things like bacteria, viruses. They also take out old, worn-out organelles. The lysosome is found in all eukaryotic cells. Its structure, it's a vesicle built by the Golgi body. And its function really here is just to digest excess or worn out organelles, food particles, and engulfed viruses or bacteria. So we could say it is the disposal of the cell. If you think about a trash can, that's kind of the same type of thing, but it's a super trash can in that it's got things on the inside that help break other things down. So maybe like a composting trash can, if you want to think of it that way. If we didn't have these, cells wouldn't be able to break materials down, and that would then make materials build up inside the cell. Dead parts would be in there. You get viruses and bacteria, and that would damage the cell greatly. The vacuole is the next part. These are storage containers of the cell. These are found in all eukaryotic cells, so you'll notice there's a huge one inside the plant, and then smaller ones, much smaller ones inside of animal cells. They contain both water and nutrients. So here they help plants maintain the shape, and they're also involved in storage, digestion, and waste removal. So kind of like a dirty swimming pool, maybe that's got some things in it we might need, both for storage and digestion, but also maybe some wastes that we could get rid of. If you didn't have a vacuole, the cell wouldn't have a storage area for water and food, and plant cells would lose their shape. The cell wall is the next one, and this is found in all prokaryotic and eukaryotic plant cells only. So they're not found in animal cells, so just in the plant cell and in the prokaryotic cells. And these basically just support and protect the cell. If you didn't have these, then plant and bacterial cells would lack support and protection. And we can go back, let's just compare one more time the different types of cells. So things that are found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes, we have genetic material in the form of DNA. So in the plant cell, in the animal cell, and in the bacterial cell. But remember, the big difference here is in eukaryotic cells, we have this nucleus, and that nucleus then has the nuclear membrane, which allows certain things in and out of the cell. Whereas over here in the bacteria or in the prokaryote, we don't. It's just a circular DNA. We have cell membrane in both. We also have cytoplasm in both, and we have ribosomes in both. We also have a cell wall that's only present in bacteria and in plants. Only in eukaryotes we have different things. Remember, we have mitochondria, we have the vacuole, we have endoplasmic reticulum, we have lysosomes, we have the chloroplast, and we have Golgi bodies. And that is the end of organelles.